So here we are. This is Chandler, and he's got a question for us today. So, Chandler, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your business and you and your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Drew. Hi, everyone. My name is Chandler Spence. I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, and my wife and I own and operate 6 short-term rental properties. And we've been doing this together for about the past 4 years. And my question today is mainly involving Google Analytics.
Yeah, Google Analytics. This is Google Analytics is probably one of the most powerful free tools that exists on the internet for in terms of like developing your business, growing your business, getting more exposure or whatever, because it provides you data, right? It provides you data. You know who's coming to your website, what they're doing there, where they came from, all this stuff that without Google Analytics you would just be left to guess, really. I mean, there it's such a powerful tool that everyone should be using it. Absolutely. So what I do know about you, Chandler, is just from communication prior to this is that you currently have your website, that your website is running on WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put a link to Chandler's website down below as well, hostfolio.co, which actually I was perusing the website earlier. And I think that this is a great website.
Thanks.
For WordPress, I imagine you probably did this mostly yourself.
Yeah, mostly ourselves. Yeah, we did have some help, though, with some more of the technical features.
Yeah, you did an excellent job. I found it really easy to navigate, really easy to use, very easy to read, and easy to find the information that I need. So bravo on that one.
Thank you.
But you really need to know what everyone else is doing and what everyone else thinks, right? Because you're always in this process of tweaking and trying to do better.
Yeah, and that's really the genesis of my question was, you put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into creating your website, and you view your website through your own lens. And so I started wondering, well, how do potential guests, present and future guests view the content? How do they interact with the content? Is there some things that I can maybe optimize or tweak? And is there a way to track that? And so that's kind of what led me to Google Analytics, how to use it, how to incorporate it, maybe what are some best practices.
Right. Wonderful. So the obvious first thing to do here is to sign up for Google Analytics. So if you have a Google or Gmail account already, you can continue on with that account. I would recommend if you have domain-specific Google account, like like you probably at hostfolio.co for your email or something like that, that's managed through Google. I would go ahead and use that account because it's going to be we're going to do Google Analytics for that website, so it keeps things a little bit more organized. So you can just go to analytics.google.com, sign up. It's a pretty easy process.
Sure.
They'll ask you a few questions, and it's a guided process, so it's not too difficult. And sort of when you get to the end of it, you'll land on this screen that shows you a little snippet of code that you can put on your website to start the tracking process.
Sure.
And so how that works, well, how does that even work? Well, in order for Google Analytics to show you all this data, they have to collect it somehow. And the only way for them to be able to collect it is to sort of have a little ear on your website, right? So they give you a little snippet of code that you paste and you copy and paste into your website code. And it just sits there, and it loads on every time a page loads, or every time someone does something, that code is paying attention. And it's reporting all this information back to Google. And so they can store it and then display it to you in a nice, pretty format. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes that's where the rub is, because now it's like, okay, I've got Google Analytics. Now, how in the world do I get it on my website? Mm-hmm. And WordPress makes this really easy. There's a number of different ways to do it, but the way that I'm going to talk about is by leveraging plugins. And so you've probably noticed this in WordPress, you can actually edit the code of your template if you want. Mm-hmm. And that's one way to add this tracking code, but I don't recommend it because if you change your template, or sometimes if you update your template, it can wipe that out. There's a number of, it's a little complex if we go into it, but I wouldn't recommend that route. I would recommend instead using a vetted plugin that will help you with the process. So I did a little bit of homework on my end before the call, and I did some digging around, and what I found was a plugin called Monster Insights, and another plugin called Insert Headers and Footers. And I will email you these links, and I will also share the links in the video. But these are two different plugins that will achieve essentially the same thing. Okay. I'll talk about the second one first. Insert Headers and Footers. What is that? It's a quick plugin that you can install, and it allows you to inject code behind the scenes onto your website. So that little snippet that I talked about in Google Analytics, you would install this plugin and paste it in to the header section of that plugin. There's a little field, and you can put whatever you want in there. And that plugin is very simple. All it does is just apply whatever you put in that box to your website. It's pretty dumb in that sense, and I mean that in a good way. Mm-hmm. That you might want more than that. You mentioned tracking events, and an event would be something like a click of a button or something like that. And something as simple as that plugin is not gonna handle that for you. So the other plugin that I want to talk about was Monster Insights. I haven't used this one, but it comes up a lot in search, and I did poke around and look through the documentation a little bit and everything, and it looks like this is a cooler option because it makes it really easy to tie in Google Analytics, but it also makes it really easy to see the data without having to go to Google Analytics and use their pretty complicated dashboard. So that's what I would recommend. There's a free version and there's a paid version. I think in order to do the event tracking, like what you're talking about, the more drilled down stuff, you have to do the paid version, I believe. Okay. It's priced per year. It's like $100 a year. So, again, I'm not associated with these people at all. This is just in my own research. So you may find a better deal, or maybe just ride with the free version for a while and see how it goes. Yeah. And you found this either through a Google search or searching through the WordPress plugin kind of directory search feature? I started searching for, I basically just use a Google search, and I searched for something like what was it? I think I searched for official Google Analytics WordPress plugin. Okay. And there isn't one, by the way. Which I think is a little bit strange. It'd be nice if Google was like, maybe would make a WordPress plugin to use their tool, but it doesn't exist. So you really have to rely on third parties. Okay. One that used to be really popular was one called Yoast, Yoast. I didn't see that brought up, so maybe that sort of faded into oblivion now. I don't know. We have that one. We're currently using that plugin, but it's primarily for SEO, and it kind of crawls the page, lets me know if there's any either grammatical errors or keywords that can be improved, kind of tells me where to focus, but then it's up to me to focus in those areas and figure out what I need to add. Right. But there's also a paid version of that too. We only use the free version right now, but I'm sure the paid version has some more robust features. Okay. Well, I think Yoast does have an additional plugin, or it may be hidden somewhere in that one where you can put in your Google Analytics tracking code. Okay. You might want to look in that. Since you're already familiar with that product, you could kind of dig into that maybe as well. So I'm definitely going to check out Monster Insights, but then maybe some ideas that are close cousins to the Google Analytics question would be maybe some plugin best practices specific to vacation rental owners. Like, what are maybe a handful that may be considered must-haves, the staples of a website. And then, from there, like the metadata, that's stuff that I've kind of heard about in the periphery, but I don't know much about. Yeah. And then that leads into SEO, then some SEO best practices. And that's a whole nother topic on its own. It's like fun / overwhelming, Yeah, no, it is. And it is. And that's why I end up, contacting you and asking you a question, being like, there's so many different open ends and loose ends and things to try and tackle. Let me eat this elephant one bite at a time. Let me start with the big hairy monster and analytics, and then just go from there. That's right. So the first step in this process is set up Google Analytics. Like I said, go to the actual Google Analytics website, sign up, and then grab one of these plugins. Probably, hopefully, one of the ones that we talked about, because they're the only ones that I did a little bit of looking into, and get that going. And then, so what that's going to do is start the data flowing. And you don't need to know everything about how to use Google Analytics or how to even digest that information yet. The important part is that the data collection will have started. You know, the sooner the better, because then you're looking, then the sooner you start, the more historical data you have, and which helps you understand a year from now if you're doing better or worse. Let me send you there's a couple articles that I like. There's one that's done by Google, and there's one that's done by this company called Moz, M-O-Z. They're like SEO company, and they're kind of like SEO for beginners. And I don't mean to insult you. I'm sure you've done your own research and everything, but
no offense here. I need all the help I can get.
Yeah, I'm like the type of guy that I can read computer programming for dummies, and I don't consider, I'm a dummy sometimes. It's not an insult, just like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah, sure.
So these are really good primers that just sort of say, like, here are the fundamental blocks of SEO, right? And it all boils down to content, really, in the end. But I think they're good things to read. They're good things to soak up. And if you're interested in legitimate SEO, and which I think you should be.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna put the effort and research into it, why not do it right the first time? Do it correctly.
That's right. Anyway, I hope this answers your questions about Google Analytics.
It does. Yeah, this has been really helpful.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you've got some ammo now. You got sort of some tasks to knock out, and hopefully a little bit better understanding of how it even works. And I say, let today be the day that you start collecting this data for your website.
Yeah, I plan on it. So today's Friday when we're recording. So this evening and then over the weekend, this is going to be one of my action items. Drew, thank you for this. I've got a full page of notes here. Not only did you give really good context and just kind of basic understanding of what analytics are and how they can be used, but you also gave some pretty solid action items for me to follow up on. So this is great. Thank you for this.
Well, that's great, Chandler. It's been awesome talking to you, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me too.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to answer my question. I appreciate you, Drew.
Absolutely. All right. Have a great day and a great weekend.
Thanks. You do the same. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.